This is Hannibal here from thehannibaltv.com with a daily wrestling news update. Tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Katie Lee Burchill interview with me live on this channel, by the way. As far as Conor McGregor's upcoming fight at UFC 303, which he canceled the press conference to yesterday in Dublin, Ireland, and also canceled media appearances over the weekend. The press conference had about 12,000 tickets out. Apparently, the gate for this over 20 million is more than any WrestleMania in history and any UFC event in history, which goes to show you Conor McGregor is still by far the biggest draw in MMA. By far, untouchable. And someone WWE, who is owned also by the same people as UFC, Endeavor, should look into making a wrestler because this guy's earning potential is massive. There's no one even close to McGregor as far as MMA. No one even remotely close. John Cena has been nominated for a Teen Choice Award under the category of Favorite Movie Actor for Fast X. It looks like WWE is going with a rematch, even though AJ lost the last match, of Cody against AJ Styles for their underwhelming Clash in the Castle pay-per-view, where Drew McIntyre, the local boy, is supposed to beat Damian Priest for the second world title, the one that's about the equivalent to what the Intercontinental title used to mean. It just goes to show you they don't need to pay-per-view buys anymore to have a rematch. That's nobody in their right mind would think AJ Styles has a chance in hell of winning. It's just they don't care. They're getting their money either way through their revenue sources. There was a big deal made last night because Natalia, there was a clip of her on Raw saying enough is enough and it's time for a change and her contract. I heard it expired June 1st, so I would say she probably re-signed. For the people speculating, oh, she might be going to AEW, they would never let her say enough is enough and it's time for a change if she actually was leaving. It just wouldn't happen. The thing that they might be doing if they have bought TNA is putting her on this new TNA brand, which I would say it's more likely than not if they haven't bought TNA yet, they're going to buy it. And at the very least, they have a very deep working relationship with TNA. But anyone that has followed it, TNA's pretty much cleaned house for nearly all of their office staff, and they have no events planned past August, and they've got rid of their marketing teams. Their TNA and WWE are promoting each other now. TNA's been losing fortunes for years, but the library is valuable to WWE. And as a lawyer friend of mine said, once Vince McMahon no compete over one possible thing he could have done was buy TNA. He's good at buying companies and building them up like he did with buying WWE from his father, like he did with buying WCW. Starting companies from scratch, such as the XFL, WBF, and promoting boxing, he hasn't done so well. He could still buy MLW. I mean, if you look at it, MLW doesn't have nearly the brand recognition as TNA. And I don't know if they are on American TV, it's got to be a very low channel because I'm not aware of any ratings that they ever get. But it's one thing that you might want to find interesting is the lawyers that settled the MLW lawsuit. Here's something very interesting, actually. And I know I have some lawyers watching this channel. You could say it's a conspiracy theory, or you might say it's not. Don't you find it weird that WWE and MLW had that antitrust case, and I guess WWE settled it? even though there's very good, I mean, give me a break. Was WWE really the reason why MLW got less popular? To me, it was more AEW coming in, scooping up all the talent, and MLW becoming less and less relevant. Not that they were one of the top, but they're a place where people wrestle regularly and have some streaming services deals. But Vince McMahon is represented in the Grant lawsuit by MLW's lawyers. Those same lawyers that settled the WWE thing for about 20 million, according to reports. That's a big settlement for a case that's, I don't know. To me, it didn't have much legs. WWE is the reason why we're doing so crappy. Like they weren't. AEW is clearly a bigger reason. Anyways, I'm just saying maybe if Vince McMahon were to take over a company, maybe it would be MLW, where his lawyers are already the MLW lawyers. And yes, I would say 100% Natalia is not leaving WWE. If they're talking about enough is enough and it's time for a change. They're trying to build an angle and get interest off of people speculating she might leave. She's obviously not going anywhere. And poor AEW has like 2,000 tickets sold for next month's show in Calgary, in the historic Calgary Saddle Dome that holds over 18,000 people. So I guess they won't have Natalia to help them out there. Not that she could have sold it out or anything, but she would have sold probably some more tickets for her debut in AEW in Calgary, but it's not happening. Speaking of AEW, apparently Christian has said publicly that when Moxley, it was Moxley that wanted to bring him into AEW, and Moxley told him that he'd be an idiot not to call Tony Khan. Obviously, AEW is an amazing place to work. You barely have to work, and you get paid like hundreds and hundreds of thousands to millions a year. And Christian's last couple of WWE runs were pretty much unmemorable. He didn't really accomplish much of substance. Christian, by the way, was advertised for numerous AEW events in Canada, including the one right here in Ottawa, and didn't show up. By the way, same with Moxley. Got to throw that in. As far as this Death of WCW Vice documentary, I heard Dave Meltzer talking about it on the Wrestling Observer Radio today. Apparently, Bischoff claims in this documentary that he had never heard of WCW until he was hired by WCW. Basically claiming until the day he was hired by WCW, he had never even heard of the company, which makes no sense at all. How would you apply for a job at a place unless they're just calling AWA and hiring him? But he was in AWA for quite a while, and you'd think a smart guy like Eric in the wrestling business would be aware of the top companies such as WCW, particularly top companies that were throwing around money like WCW. He also says that if WCW had had TV rights fees, like the way wrestling works now, TV rights fees are pretty much the largest source of income. They get paid to have their shows on stations. WCW wasn't getting any of those. They wouldn't have been like they would have actually been making money likely in many years, including Meltzer says Jim Hurds and Bill Watts, if TV rights fees were available. Because if that happened, live event income wouldn't matter. Lord knows AEW lost 34 million last year. Imagine if they had no TV rights fees, how much it would have been. Because they're certainly on the vast majority of their events, more likely than not, renting these massive arenas and getting like 1,500, 2,000 in them. You're not breaking even. These big arenas charge, like some of them charge tens of thousands of dollars to rent. I mentioned once when we rented the Colisée de Pepsi in Quebec City for TNA was $78,000 including deductions. Crazy cost for arena rentals. which is why WWE now is looking for site fees from towns and getting arenas for free because arena costs are so much these days. Apparently, it's a myth that WCW was killing WWE or was getting killed by WWE in ratings prior to Bischoff getting in WWE. Meltzer says that the WCW Saturday Night Show on TBS some years actually did better than WWE programming, but they were not beating them in pay-per-view buys and attendance. Once Bischoff took over, in some years they were getting better pay-per-view buys and attendance, but everyone knows actually. You can't really argue this. Like WCW Saturday Night was a popular show, even in the bad eras. Which, by the way, to me, I'd still rather watch WCW in '91 than the current products. That's just my taste. I, for some reason, maybe because it's my childhood, I still fondly remember WCW in 1991.